There seems to be an awful lot of sad stories in the news today, and there are thousands missing. Does anybody care? New Band Channel, where we talk about those faces. Talking News. Debbie. Cassie Barnes has still not been found, and it's been 2 years since her case first hit the spotlight. Reggae. Chattanooga and Middle Valley both behind bars. Sarah Galloway was found. She wasn't found alive. What happened to Sarah Galloway?
It's too heartbreaking to share.
Children are still missing. Children like Dorsey. You're in shame. You just got away with it. Welcome to Talking News. Hello everyone. My name is Debbie. We use big stories to push little faces.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murder Talking News. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Also hit the notification bell if you'd like notifications whenever we have new uploads. Right now we're dealing with, where is Gabby? Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. Gabby Petito, she's 22 years old. She is from Blue Point, Long Island. She has a longtime friend and boyfriend, but now her fiance. He's 23 years old. His name, Brian Laundrie. The two go way back. They know each other from high school. They grew up in Long Island, but in 2019, Gabby moves to Florida to live with the love of her life, Brian, and they live with his parents. Gabby and Brian lived with this family up until a few months ago. On Gabby and Brian's spare time, we learned that they enjoy doing camping trips, hiking trips, and they do this with family members and friends. And so before they start taking this planned trip, which we're about to get into, the two are used to doing off-the-grid type things. They really, really love and enjoy camping. Gabby loves art. She loves being creative, and her father calls her a free spirit. Okay, guys, switching environments a little bit. So, Gabby has a dream to create a blog and a website, and she wants to travel the United States. She has an idea to buy a van and turn it into a mini home for her and her boyfriend, Brian. She has a regular job that she works at for a year to save up the money for that trip. Once she had the money and completed the finishing touches on the van, she and Brian packed their bags and put the van on the road at the beginning of July. Some of the most important things that she carries with her is her phone, computer, camera, and she plans to share their travel experience. And she's doing it from this very small, tiny van. Here's a clip of Gabby at her workplace, guys, before she goes on her trip.
Anyway. But what's like the first thing that comes to mind when you do?
When I think of Mackenzie, definitely empowered. Like, I don't know, she's just so thoughtful. She's very quick on her feet, and
That's literally perfect. I just got it. Wonderful. I didn't even know. Okay. What is something that you're excited for this summer? In front of you, and now you're going to look at the camera.
okay.
And you're just going to say happy birthday, Noel.
Okay.
Just wait a second. I'm going to center it. Okay, ready, set, go.
Happy birthday, Noel.
Perfect.
Okay.
A little bit different Gabby than what we're used to seeing. Is she's a little bit shy in that video, and we know at this point she was saving for a year in order to take this long trip. She documents putting this van together. She documents them preparing to leave. The little white van is ready. Time's come and they're ready to take this trip. So on their way up to New York, they visit their godmother, Flora. During their visit, she says nothing ever seemed out of ordinary between the couple. They seem like a perfect, happy couple. Flora says this couple seems to enjoy each other's time. She also noticed that they were very enthusiastic about this trip they were about to take. She knew that this was their dream trip. When a reporter asked about Gabby later on in this case, has she ever struggled with depression or anxiety? According to Flora, she says, I went with her 24/7, but she's never really seen her deal with anxiety or depression. And so that's important to understand before we move forward in this case. Is it something to fit a narrative? So we'll find out later. The couple get in their conversion van and head up to New York. And at this point, Gabby is really trying to set up a perfect pinpoint adventure. So she's planning how she's going to blog, how things are going to go. She's wanting to run a YouTube, go on Instagram, all these social media sites in order to share her blogs and adventure. But what she doesn't realize is this type of thing will be a challenge. Blogging and sharing your adventure or what you're doing in your life constantly will require constant attention. Writing, videos, pictures, editing, uploading. While she seems to be very exact on what she's wanting to do, I don't think she plans in the stress part of this. So interestingly, Gabby's father moved to Verno Beach, which is in Florida, in June to be closer to his daughter. But now she's kind of hitting the road and leaving him behind. But her dad did share some characteristics of his daughter. He described her as a very, very free-spirited person. And he basically says that material things aren't her thing. So clothes don't impress her. Cars don't impress her. Experiences impress her. So Gabby and Brian, they make their way to New York, visiting Gabby's parents. They're at a family event. During Gabby and Brian's time there, her stepfather says that they were very, very excited about this trip. That's what they were talking about. Everything seemed great. After the visit with the parents, both Brian and Gabby, they head off for this adventure, this cross-country track, in their little white van that she loves so much, in this meticulously planned trip. Well, the clock has started, and it's time for them to hit each spot as planned. It is evident that Gabby knows that she has a lot to plan out. She has to prepare for this blog, and she's the main one working on the website, so she gets everything set up. This 22-year-old and 23-year-old are now on this very long day and night trip, just the two of them, for months to come. And they have no clue, but this is going to be a challenge in itself for a very young couple. So not to mention living in this small confined area with a girl who is OCD, as Gabby will say later, and from Brian's mouth, a dirty guy. Opposites attract, we know, but it also can cause issues. The couple's trip continues, and on July 5th of 2021, the couple stops at Kansas Monument Rocks. And on July 8th through 10th, Gabby arrives in Colorado. She's posting photos of her and Brian in Colorado Springs. And over the next few days, she poses for photos. And they're at the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve. The couple's next stop, it's a photo of the couple at Zion National Park. The couple seems to be having a fabulous time. They're enjoying their trip. Doesn't seem to be any problems during this time. The couple's spending a lot of time in Utah, and on July 16th through the 22nd, the couple hike and camp in Utah's Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon. Jumping back a little bit to July 8th, guys, according to Slice 420, a pizza shop in Old Colorado City, Gabby visited them. July 26th, Gabby shares a photo of her kissing her boyfriend at the Mystic Hot Springs in Monroe, Utah. By July 30th, the couple has arrived in Canyonland National Park. So moving into July 31st, So we know the pair had documented their conversion of the 2012 Ford van into a camper. They started recording their life traveling in this van. They did post it on YouTube. And they were developing a social media presence under the name Normatic, I hope I say this right, guys, Static. So it's pretty quiet from July 31st up until we come to August 12th. On August 12th, the couple is running into a few problems. They're running out of supplies, and we noticed that there's a possibility that these two only have one phone between the two. So, August 12th, 2021 is not a good day. The couple begins to disagree and have disputes. There are bystanders around when this happens, and obviously it gets so hectic that it actually catches their attention. According to the witness, they noticed that the way that he's acting towards Gabby, it's a little bit questionable. So they decide to call 911. It's around 4:30 p.m. that evening. The witness calls 911 and tells them that there's a gentleman slapping a girl. The dispatcher asks him, he's slapping her? And he responds with, yes. Then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and then drove off. So in another account of this call, an article says, quote, we drove by him. A gentleman was slapping the girl. The two people were running up and down the sidewalk. This is before the man proceeded to hit her. So this is happening in the Moonflower community in Moab. According to witnesses, it seemed that the two were arguing over a phone. Police have a description of the van, and they finally find the couple riding down the road. And so when they pull up behind them, they notice that they're kind of swerving, and then they hit a curb. According to police, it took them a little bit to get them to pull over. So the story's going to be a little bit different than what you heard from the witnesses. When the cops pull them over, they walk up to the passenger side where Gabby is sitting, and she's crying hysterically. And what we find out later when Gabby is talking in a video, which I'm going to let you watch, she said that they were arguing and that Brian had actually grabbed her face and pushed her back when cops asked if he ever hit her. We know that she says that, or Brian says, that he's holding the keys from Gabby. There's a reason for that we'll talk about shortly. So he has scratches on his face, and police are wondering where those scratches come from. Police pull Gabby to the side, and they start talking to her because you can tell that they're a little bit concerned of what's going on, because she just looks like what you would call a domestic victim. She's kind of shy. She doesn't want to say too much. But then again, when he asks her what's wrong, she immediately starts talking.
Hi, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
It was a long day. We were camping yesterday, and camping got pushed out supplies and stuff. I'm sorry I hit the bump there.
Just hang tight right there. Do you mind if I take your keys and just put them on your hood?
You got it, buddy. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm going to go ahead and close your door, okay? You want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days I have really bad OCD, and I was just cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him and saying, I'm sorry that I'm so mean, because sometimes I have OCD and sometimes I just get really frustrated. Not like mean towards him, I guess my vibe is like I hear him be like in a bad mood. And I was just saying, I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. I've just been really stressed. I had so much work. I was really like down there. I don't know. We've just been fighting all morning, and he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't you let you in the car? Because of your OCD?
told me I need to calm down. Yeah. But I'm perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time. And stresses me out, and this is a rough morning.
Well, sit, and then I'll come back and talk to you in a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty. Like I said, you're not in any trouble. So just go ahead and take a seat.
So the officer has her sit in the back of his car while he walks over to talk to her fiance Brian to see what he can get from him as to what happened. You can tell that Gabby's extremely exhausted here, but you're gonna see where things are gonna turn a little bit and start making Gabby look like the aggressor, because he does have the scratches and the bruises. Watch closely.
What's that? Yeah, I just spoke to her. Yeah. So, you want to do me a favor? Let's go ahead and get you to step out of the vehicle, alrighty? Come on over here. You're not in any trouble right now. So, tell me what's going on.
She just gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her, so like I locked the car and I walked away from her. What happened this morning is that she's trying to start up like her own little website blog and everything, so I give her time, and we really had a nice morning and everything, but she just got worked up as we were trying to get going and get our day going, because we want to go like Archie's place some other time.
Okay. You want to tell me about those scratches on your face?
She had her cell phone in her hand, that's why I was pushing her away, because she wanted I locked the keys so I could walk away. I said, let's just take a breather and let's not go anywhere. Let's just calm down for a minute.
And here's where the manipulation begins. He tries to make it look as if, he's the one that's trying to be calm. Well, he does have the scratches, as you can see on his face. But there's one thing. He's a big liar. You can tell that he's a professional manipulator. But Gabby lies too, but hers is a different kind of lie. It's truthful up to a point. Her lies are she don't tell the truth. So if they were to ask her flat out, she would tell you, but then not really. This is because she wants to protect him, even if he's the one hurting her, or even vice versa. And what was the giveaway was he was more concerned about what she was saying, which you'll hear at some point. So here we go.
And then she had her phone trying to get the keys for me, so that way I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her away to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe. And she got me with her phone.
Can I see your hand? Oh, you got a mark right here.
Oh, that's from a wire.
That's from a wire?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about hitting that curb?
Hitting the curb was her grabbing the wheel.
Did she grab the wheel?
Yeah. She said, I can't believe we're getting pulled over, and then she did it.
What about the speed? Did she take over the pedal on you?
If I was going fast, I'm sorry. No, it's probably just the moment of like, I'm still shaking out. Water container to fill up, so we were just grabbing water for the hike. Okay. And I was trying to keep everything calm and quiet, because there's plans still to go for a hike, but it's good. I'm sorry about that.
Of course. Do me a favor. You want to go ahead and just take a seat right over here on the curb for me?
If I was speeding, I'm sorry.
You don't have anything in that pocket or anything like that, do you?
Nope, just the wallet.
All right. And then, do you mind lifting your shirt so I can check the waistband? I got to turn around for me real quick. Okay. I just want to make sure. That's all, man.
At that point where police are kind of getting pictures of him, he realizes at that point he might have the upper hand, because he's the one that has, the visual injuries. And to be honest, I'll have to do another video where we can go back and reevaluate this, because I really never did get a chance to evaluate it. A very long story short, guys, Brian is actually trying to convince the police that he's the one that had his act together, and that he was trying to get her to calm down. So because he had the scratches, and the police, I guess, didn't go by what witnesses said, they were going to arrest Gabby. But eventually, police decided not to do that, just to separate them for the night. And this is because they desperately they did not want to be charged with a crime. They both told police that they were in love and they were about to get married, but they were just very, very stressed out. Looking at Brian, you can see that He's not really having any kind of emotional issue. He's just trying to manipulate his way out of the situation, which seems to be something he's used to. As for Gabby, she seems very extremely stressed out. I mean, she is stressed. You can see it, and it was a good idea that police separated them. Thank God she didn't go to jail. So what were they most likely fighting over? The truth? The truth is she was probably fussing at him, because she's doing all the work, most likely, about being dirty, what she says and he says, and, you know, getting the band dirty. He probably looks at this as a rejection type thing, which he doesn't take well, and comes back at her in an aggressive way. This is speculation, guys. And at some point, he does get his hands on her phone and keys and refuses to give them to her. This is a control issue. Did he say in a calm way, I've got your keys, I've got your phone, and I've got this until you calm down? No. I think it was more like, I've got your keys and your phone, and what are you going to do about it? Clearly, from watching this video, especially knowing the outcome at this time, Brian is a brilliant manipulator. It likes to use charisma, respect, and politeness to manipulate one's thought of who he is. But who is Brian really? I think Gabby knows, but she would never, ever, she loves him so much, ever give up the dark side of her fiance. So again, the police end up, you can tell they're having a hard time knowing what to do with the two. They don't want to ruin their lives, because they know they're about to get married, and they could tell that they were stressed out, and they don't have a background, and they were both pretty polite. It's hard to know somebody in 5 minutes. They separate them and tell them, do not contact one another tonight. They give Gabby the keys to the van, and they take Brian to a hotel. Now, guys, I don't know this story super great yet. I just learned it. But though police were telling them, you know, don't get back together, it's not a good idea. Of course, the two end up meeting immediately the next day. All right, guys, let me do a part 1 and a part 2. So this will be the end of part 1. And from here, things are going to be very interesting. Okay, remember, we still have faces out there just like Gabby. They need your attention. They don't get the spotlight that some of these other girls get. And so I try to use some of these very popular stories as an opportunity for these faces right here. Guys, don't forget, I have a Patreon. If you like the work that I do, please donate to my Patreon. If you can't do that, then just like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much, guys. Love you, and I'll see you in part 2.